We're joined live now by Matthew Holmes, Executive Vice President at the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. I mean, obviously, there are so many things that a lot of these leaders have to talk about, but as I mentioned, we're standing by for the bilateral meeting between Mark Carney, Canadian Prime Minister, and also Donald Trump as well. Top of their agenda is, of course, going to be the trading relationship between both countries. This is, of course, coming after the U.S. has decided to double the steel and aluminum tariffs to 50% instead of 25%. Just walk us through what sort of impact that is having, already having, and will have going forward on Canadian businesses.
Yes, well, it's certainly an important moment here in Banff and Kananaskis, Alberta. Prime Minister Carney having the opportunity to meet with President Trump directly so that they can discuss some of those deeper trade issues and concerns between the two countries. Because, of course, that's not on the formal agenda of the G7, but the fact that the G7 is taking place here gives them that chance for these side meetings. And that's part of the importance of the G7 itself, a summit for some of the most important liberal democracies to connect. And so many of them are new that many of them haven't had those opportunities yet. So that's important. On the deeper Canada-US trade piece, the current tariff regime is really disruptive, and it will be quite costly to both economies, both Canada's and the United States. If you look at aluminum, for example, Canada supplies about 75% of America's imported aluminum, and that's about 50% of the total aluminum. One of the reasons for that is because we're right next door. We're a trusted trading partner. We've been trading in aluminum with the United States since the Second World War, and that was actually by design so that America could enter the war. And one of the reasons that Canadian aluminum is so reliable is because we have hydroelectricity, particularly in Quebec, which makes it quite efficient and cost effective for the US market to turn more smelting in America over to aluminum. The costs for the energy would be quite considerable. It's about 40% of the cost for aluminum. So right now with the trade deal, the tariffs are really disrupting economies. There are workers on layoff. There are entire sectors that are quite concerned. And we're watching closely for inflation to hit both markets. We're quite concerned that this will ripple through the supply chain and eventually to the consumer themselves.
So the key to getting through to President Trump is approaching him from the sort of personal level. It's all about personal relationships with him. And after the election in Canada, when Mark Carney became Prime Minister, his first sort of major key test was that Oval Office. I mean, it's literally every world leader's sort of main test, that Oval Office meeting, where you have to sort of perform, I guess, in front of the cameras live, and you don't know what the president is going to say. Mark Carney, I think, really passed that test. I mean, he did well. The president does seem to respect him. Obviously, he has a business background. He was head of the Bank of Canada, head of Bank of England as well. But just in terms of what happens at the bilateral meeting today, given that personal relationships are so important to President Trump, what does Prime Minister Carney need to say this time around?
Well, I think you're quite right. There has been a reset in the relationship, and we could see that before the election, before Prime Minister Trudeau stepped down, that we weren't going to get very far in this relationship. There didn't seem to be a lot of love lost between the two leaders. And so there's been that reset. And what I took away from the Oval Office meeting wasn't so much the public meeting, which was very important, and all of the right senior people were around that room, but the fact that they had such a long meeting behind closed doors. And that, to me, tells me that there are real conversations taking place, trust being built. And it's a chance for both leaders to say, honestly, here's what my problem is. Here's what I'm concerned about. How can we work on this together? And so at the G7 summit, kicking off, this is the first morning of the G7, right off the bat, President Trump and Prime Minister Carney are having a meeting behind closed doors. And I think that's very important for them to continue to build on that relationship and on that trust, because ultimately Canada and the United States have been each other's biggest trading partners for a very, very long time. And it's in both countries' interest to continue that and to find a way to do that.
Is the problem the sort of level of tariffs, the fact that it's 50% on steel and aluminum, or is the problem more the fact that you have no idea what the US's trade policy is going to be from one week to the next. I mean, obviously 1 minute it's 25%, the next minute it's 50%, the next minute there could be some kind of working framework deal, the next minute the tariffs could be put on pause. And you have no idea whether the 50% is actually here to stay or whether it's just a sort of way to get Canada to the negotiating table. I mean, just the fact that there is so much uncertainty, and just the fact that there is so much uncertainty, what's going to happen next week, Canadian businesses don't know what's going to happen next week. How much tariffs themselves? Is that more the problem than the actual tariffs themselves?
Yeah, you've really nailed it there. The uncertainty for business is toxic, and what that does is it freezes major decisions, whether that's a capital investment, major decisions, whether that's hiring, whether that's a product launch, whether that's job hiring, setting up a new manufacturing site, or all of those setting up a new manufacturing site, slow down, all of those decisions suddenly slow down. The rules of the game are entirely, and when the rules of the game are in position, and when the tariff rules, the trading position, the tariff rules, nobody knows the rules. Goalposts are changing, and so that's a nobody knows the rules of the game. Now the tariffs themselves, and so that's a 50% for now the tariffs themselves at 50%, like steel and aluminum, key industries, steel in particular, like steel, that will be very damaging. It could that would undermine the entire Canadian steel industry over time, the entire Canadian steel industry over time. If the Canadian steel industry is undermined, if the Canadian steel industry is undermined, we will be turning to international sources that we will be turning to, which are the concerns of the American government, which are the concern of the American government, non-competitive markets, flooding, or from non-competitive markets that don't play by the rules. Is their major concern? Play by the rules is that same concern, and Canada last summer that same concern, and in fact last summer on steel and aluminum from China, in lockstep on steel and aluminum from China, we were allies in lockstep, and we were absolutely allies with the U.S. and we were on that common issue and that with the U.S. So I think we have a shared interest here, and our economies we have a shared interest here, and our economies are very getting to a trade relationship where the rules are clear. It's getting to a trade relationship where the rules are clear, and that everybody is abiding by the same agreement, and that everybody is abiding by the same agreement.
Matthew Holmes, life rest there. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.